To you, O Lord, we lift our souls. Good morning. Please be seated. It is wonderful to be back. Thanks for inviting me to proclaim the good news this morning. It's great to see so many faces. Now, my attention was drawn to two things as I read over the readings for today. First, we are in relationship with God. And as the people of God, we are working to grow and strengthen that bond. In our collect, we call on God to hear us and to help us with that. We all need God's help. And second, how does this connection with God influence who we are and what we are called to do? How can it transform our lives? How can we, in our own special and unique ways, bring the love of God to the world around us? If you would, please think about the reasons that you came to church this morning, here or online. Are you here to see friends? Are you here because you're serving? Are you here for the music? Are you always feel better after you come to church? Are you here because you're struggling with something or someone and you need to bring those feelings to God? Are you here simply because you feel like you're supposed to be here? No matter the reason, God is indeed delighted that you are here. That word delighted in the reading from Deuteronomy really struck me, because Moses has been giving the guidelines to the people of Israel, the Torah. But Moses wants the people to know that their prosperity is a gift, freely given from God. And Moses links God's delight to the people's adherence to the Torah, not to the prosperity or abundance. You see, our relationship with God is not transactional. It's not if we do this, then we get that. God's blessings are not dependent on our behavior. And thanks be to God for that. God's delight comes when we turn to the Lord with our heart and our soul. Our relationship with God is like no other relationship that we have or will ever have. Consider the human relationship. Now, if you give someone a gift, or let's say you're out to dinner and you decide to pick up the check, how do you feel if the recipient of your gift doesn't say thank you, or your friends don't show you the appreciation for your generosity? Are you going to be delighted the next time around? Will you be inclined to be as generous? I hope we still give gifts. I hope we still pay for the occasional meal. But are we tending to be, maybe not so sure the next time around? But fortunately, God is not like us. You see, our relationship with God is unlike the human relationships. It's hard for us even to consider how much God cares for us. God does not act based on any emotion like we often do. God's actions are always as a response based on pure, unfailing, unwavering love for creation. We are the ongoing beneficiaries of God's generosity, grace, and mercy, no matter what we do or how we act, because God indeed loves us unconditionally. Even with the ones we hold most dear, are we able to say that? Moses knows firsthand and wants to make sure the people of Israel understand that God has been acting this way forever and will continue to act this way. Honoring Torah is a way to say thank you, and living according to those guidelines is a way for the people of Israel to honor, protect, and respect the covenant God made with them. And it's the least they can do. I suggest that no matter the reason you're attending church today, in person or online, you have written God a thank you note just by being here. Gratitude is the key expression of our relationship, and so we give God thanks and praise. To you, O Lord, we lift our souls. Our readings give us insight into how our relationship can grow and be strengthened if and when we turn our hearts and souls to God. I ask, is the psalmist living a life free of worry, free of drama, free of injustice, freedom from the enemy? The world of the psalmist, in fact, sounds very familiar. Yet there is hope. There is respite. There is guidance to be found because the psalmist's trust is in God's love and faithfulness. The language in the letter to the Colossians is exuberant, full of joy and encouragement. And Paul is praying that the people continue to grow in their faith and that it bears fruit, to believe that living this life of Jesus is one worth living. But Paul, just like our psalmist, is careful to let the people know that a relationship centered on Jesus is not a free pass to a life without difficulty, without struggle, and without hardship. In fact, this letter implores them to do what? We read, quote, "Be prepared to endure everything with patience, while joyfully giving thanks to the Father," end quote. So our relationship with God, no matter how strong, no matter how much we give God thanks and praise, no matter if we come to church every week, tithe, pray without ceasing, does not grant us immunity from the stuff of life. Until the world on heaven is as it is, until the world on earth is as it is in heaven, we are going to go through our share of stuff. Then and now we are called to turn to the Lord with all our heart and soul. And so we lift our souls to the Lord in humble gratitude. So what can this look like in our lives? Well, Jesus shares a couple ways to put our relationship with God into practice. To be sure, there is a ton we can cover in today's gospel lesson. But my focus is on the answer our attorney friend gives to Jesus, and then how Jesus applies it in the parable of the Good Samaritan. The lawyer does, in fact, answer his own question with what Jesus calls the best answer. Love the Lord with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And the attorney, maybe a bit smugly, then asks, "Who is my neighbor?" It's key that Jesus uses a Samaritan to illustrate his point. Samaritans are Jews who observed the same festivals as other Jews. They claim to be descendants of the 12 tribes, specifically Ephraim and Manasseh, and they settled in the northern part of Israel. Samaritans believe, though, that the holiest site The place fit for the temple of Yahweh is at the base of Mount Gerizim, not Jerusalem, as most other Jews. This is no small thing, and as with many a religious argument, this difference divides. In fact, 2 weeks ago in Luke's Gospel, chapter 9, the people of Samaria did not accept the disciples that Jesus sent during the Great Commission, and that prompted James and John to ask if fire should be rained down from heaven and destroy Samaria. Well, maybe James and John were showing off their great senses of humor, having a little fun at Samaria's expense, and maybe raining fire from heaven is meant to evoke images of Sodom and Gomorrah's punishments. But that seems pretty extreme as a response. Maybe the interpretation lies somewhere in the middle. But however we interpret it, this parable is meant to lean into that hostility that Jesus' followers feel towards Samaritans and Samaritans feel towards Jesus' followers. So who might we put into that category? Who do we feel hostility towards? Who would we rather avoid talking with? The very same people who shunned the disciples and wouldn't listen to a word they said, these are the very people Jesus uses to make his point. The people we may least expect are, in fact, capable of remarkable kindness. The people we laugh at and ridicule and shun are the very people Jesus tells us are capable of mirroring God's love in our world. And so our relationship with God calls us to be transformed, to allow ourselves to be moved, to forget the slight we received by not letting it affect our behavior, just as we know God remains loving despite our misdoings. Concentrate on the things that can unite, not the things that can divide. Allow yourselves to overlook someone who doesn't respond to you or your generosity in the way you think they should. And go on being generous. Allow me to close with an example that hit me squarely in the chest this past week. Now, I have been dealing with a certain shipping company for the last 3 weeks about a lost package from the country of Turkey. This package is very important to me, and I have had no less than 11 phone calls with various representatives who are trying to do their best to help me. Each time I call, I have to go through the same frustrating AI questions. You know the ones. And the dreaded on-hold music, which I know by heart. So when I finally get through, I of course get a different person, right? So I have to go through the same story again. I am promised to get a call back, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. And if I'm being honest with you and God and myself, this past week I was ready to go volcanic. I mean, I had just had it, and I was ready to take out every frustration on the very next person I talked to. And then I heard the attorney's question. And who is my neighbor? Wow. And I realized that I am being given a chance to, in fact, practice what I'm preaching, because the person on the phone, no matter what country they're in, is my neighbor. And they're doing the best they can to help me. And so I took a deep breath. And I told the story again, one more time. Thanks be to God.